Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned Edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Welcome all you weirdos, killer clowns from outer space or the outer boroughs, and everyone who sometimes thinks, hey, maybe I am a Skrull. It is time to receive your 193rd Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your betting against Xavier, and I don't mean in the tournament, host Jason, broadcasting to you as always from the Wrong Turn studio perched high atop stately Weird Science Manor. And joining me today is a man who maintains his super strength even when frame mogging spikes his cortisol. It's my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you?
Good. I don't know what that is though.
That's good for you.
Okay.
That's for the best.
All right.
It's just funny that a thing that's happened in Cyclops kind of goes along with the latest pop culture brain rot nonsense. It made me laugh. Some people out there will know what I'm talking about. If you don't, and listeners, if you don't look it up. It's really stupid.
Yeah, I'm an old man, I guess.
So, we got basketball going on. We got it's going to snow on me again today, for crying out loud. It's the middle of March. What else is going on? Oh, there was that Spider-Man trailer that everyone's been talking about. Have you seen?
Are you a basketball fan? Before we go into Spider-Man,
not in the slightest, not at all. No.
There's a lot of hype in Seattle about the potential of the Sonics coming back. I think there's an expectation that we're going to be one of the two expansion teams.
Huh.
So next week you'll see how happy or sad I am. I'm not a huge basketball fan, but this is definitely one where I'm kind of sick of my neighbors lamenting the Sonics moving for the last however many years, decade. It'd be nice to kind of get that monkey off my shoulder.
Nice. I'm not a football fan either, but I was a college student in Cleveland when the Browns suddenly disappeared.
So I can imagine that's awful. Yeah.
In fact, I would go to one football game a year with, the college would bus a bunch of us over. And I happened to go to the Browns-Steelers game, which is always a big deal. It was right after the announcement was made, like the next game. So all the advertisers had pulled all their names out of the stadium. Someone had put Art Modell, who's the owner of the team, Art Modell face in the urinal covers at the bottom of the urinals. It was quite the experience.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah, I'm glad Cleveland got their football team back. And, yeah, sure. I guess I hope Seattle gets their basketball team back as well.
Did you watch the Spider-Man trailer?
Oh, yeah, I did. And the only thing really that's relevant to this podcast is there's some lady on a bus, or maybe it was a train, I think it was a bus, who has hair that kind of looks like Rogue's. That was the discussion point on the X-Men subreddit this week. Yeah. Will Rogue be showing up in Spider-Man? And I'm thinking no. I'm thinking probably not.
Yeah.
The other sports comics crossover is the upcoming soccer or football for you Europeans variant covers for a bunch of the books, including the X-Men books, where you get to see like Scott playing soccer.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll be buying a bunch of those and slabbing them and putting them aside for college tuition.
Yeah, I wouldn't spend the money to slab it, but I am tempted to go buy that cover. I don't know what I would do with it, though. I guess maybe I could frame it and stick it in my office.
Yeah, why not?
It'd be like a nice little crossover. I bought the, there's a Hellboy comic where the cover is some kaiju monsters destroying the Space Needle. It was like a free comic book day issue, cool. And I have that for that purpose, and I never actually framed it, so I'm kind of tempted not to do something I know I'm not actually going to do.
Well, speaking of actual comic books, we have a few to talk about today, just 3. We're going to talk about X-Men number 27. We're going to talk about Cyclops number 2. And we'll finish up with a little bit on Wade Wilson Deadpool number 2. And before we get to specifics, Because according to the latest DC Spotlight podcast, Ruben, the new rule of thumb is we don't actually talk about the books until 43 minutes in. So we have a lot of time to kill before we get to that time stamp.
I'm not that outgoing, unfortunately. My wife. So I will say one random thing. So I've been doing this Orange Theory Fitness for about a month, which is like a exercise flavor of the month exercise club type thing.
Yeah, I've driven past some of those buildings that have popped up here in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Basically, I have a friend who's actually pretty fit, and he just gets into something and then tells me I should do it, and then I join him for a bit, and then he loses interest, and then I eventually lose interest. But I've been doing it, but I never go when my wife goes, so she goes a lot with his wife. And apparently, so I went on a Wednesday, and then my wife went on a Thursday, and it was the same exercise coach, and she was like, I don't know if your husband likes this or not. And he's like really hard to read. My wife's like, I don't understand why everyone thinks that you're so mysterious. Like, apparently I blabber I talk to her all the time, but I don't talk to anybody else in person. But everyone else thinks I'm like this very quiet, withdrawn individual.
Well, we know better here because we're gonna get into it when you tell us all about Cyclops. Now, the common complaint I have about the books this week, and maybe it's just me, maybe it's the mood I'm in, but none of these really feel like they advance our stories as much as I'd like them to. Like, I get to the end and I feel like I've read the prologue to a next chapter, but I haven't actually gotten the next chapter yet. Is that just me, or is that a common theme from these books? Do you have the same feeling?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just me. I get it.
I don't know how to say it. It's like I agree with you, but I felt a little more positive about these stories this week.
I know it's the nature of comics. They do 5 or 6 issue arcs. You can't jump to the end. I get it, but yet I still sometimes feel like I just want a little more along the way.
I will say, because I've been reading a lot of the like 80s comics, and I notice this a lot when I read these comics. I hate this, like, this whole issue is basically just like, here's the bad guy team and their backstory. And it's 26 pages of that. And I'm like, I feel like if this was a 80s, 90s comic, that would have been maybe 10 pages, and we would have had another 10 to 15 pages of actual story. It just seems like it's a lot slower.
Let's get to the specifics. I'm going to hit the ding sound here, and we'll get specifically to X-Men number 27, Danger Room Part 2, which is going to be at least a 5-part story, going by the solicits, written by Jed MacKay, pencils by Netho Diaz, inks by Sean Parsons, colors by Cifuentes Suho, and letters by, who else? Clayton Coles. So, really, Ruben, the most important takeaway from this issue is that you were correct. You were absolutely correct when you said you thought that Maxine Danger and company were responsible for all the bad stuff going on with the X-Men, and not just the big tentacle attack there on the giant boat. So also John Greycrow's bank robbery going awry, and even poor Robert Glob Herman getting shot at the farmer's market. So you're absolutely correct on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this issue moves the story forward like, I don't know, 15 seconds.
I mean, the worst part about all this is it's a huge background dump on this danger. What are we going to call them? The Danger Crew?
The Danger Room. That's what they're called. That's what the name of the book is these, which must be the only reason that Jed MacKay pulled Maxine Danger out of Spider-Man into X-Men so that he could have a team called the Danger Room. Which, hey, comics, I get it.
He spends a ton of time giving the background of these characters, and I do not expect these characters to ever show up again. So in one respect, I'm just like, okay, this is a lot of unnecessary, pointless information.
You don't think they'll eventually team up with all those other classic Jed MacKay villain teams like the Blood Coven and the Twilight Court?
I just got the sense that in the past he didn't do the background on the characters, and maybe this is his attempt to be like, okay, no, my characters actually are interesting. They do have backstories. And now he's like going the extreme in the other direction of like, he's got to tell you every little detail about these people he's created, and they're still not interesting. So sorry, Jed.
They are different in that they're all regular humans. Maybe we'll get to that in a second, but they're not supervillains. They don't have supervillain names. They have just regular ass person names. So that's something different. Maxine Danger. I want to say Maxine Waters, but I think that's a politician. Maxine Danger. She says that she got these people out of prison because she's hooked up with the Office of National Emergency, and they're giving her free reign to take all these psychos out of prison. She says they're all, quote, manipulative, psychotic masterminds, adept in meticulously ruining lives. And she has them all sicken them on the X-Men. So here's the team. First, we have Charlene Jackson, former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Must have been fairly high up in the ranks of things because she's involved in planning individual operations to the point where she's planning things specifically to get her fellow agents killed. Not that she's like getting paid by the enemy. It just seems to be like her hobby, getting people killed. She would just over and over arrange the mission so that the maximum number of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would get killed. She even knew that she'd eventually be found out. Didn't really care about that. Didn't try to hide. It just gave her incentive to kill more people faster before she was stopped.
Yeah.
There's also a bit where they say in prison, the guards say she's not allowed to speak because she keeps talking her fellow prisoners into killing themselves. That doesn't feel like it necessarily goes along with the previous bit of planning. In fact, that feels like it should go more with one of the other Danger Team members we're going to talk about next. Did you think that was gilding the lily just one step too far?
Well, I kind of need to see it more than just see it written on the paper.
Right.
Because she doesn't come across as particularly persuasive in the way that McKay writes her. I mean, she's not an idiot, but I don't see her persuading anybody to
we don't
do
see her
anything.
actually do stuff. We're just told she's done stuff. Yeah. And what's the other thing? Oh, is the talking people into killing themselves, is that like a Joker trope? I know I've seen that in comics before. I think it's a DC Joker thing, isn't it?
It's possible, but I feel like with the Joker, you have so much history that it's plausible, right?
Completely.
So it's kind of rough here for me to see this, unless you're like, this is a Purple Man thing, which I don't think it is. But
I don't think so. She seems to be just a plain old regular baseline human, but, nasty. So Jackson, her target as a member of the Danger Room, her target is Psylocke. And Jackson tells us that she has successfully isolated Psylocke from the main body of the X-Men by targeting her romantic partner, John Greycrow. So all those extra cops outside the bank last issue, I guess those were Jackson's doing. But like you say, we don't actually see her doing anything to make that happen. So did she tip off the cops, or I would like some more dots being connected here. How did her wanting to get John Greycrow to get to Psylocke, how did she actually do that?
Yeah, like what mission, or how did she get the information about what his targets were, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, how does she even know that Psylocke and John Greycrow are an item? We just kind of see, the result, and I wanted this to happen, but how'd you do it? Please tell me. So in this issue, we do see Psylocke and Zorn flying off in the Marauder to visit Greycrow, and then we see the Marauder being shot down by what look like G.I. Joe red lasers. Doesn't that look like G.I. Joe to you? Total G.I. Joe look to it. Like, I expect to see them parachuting out to safety like always happens in G.I. Joe. It doesn't it start to seem like there are just way too many X-Men being shot out of the sky lately? Like first Quentin was shot down. Quentin was shot down in 3K. Psylocke and Zorn now, and Cyclops gets shot down in his own titular solo series.
Yeah, they needed some kind of cloaking tech on these vehicles.
You got Beast. Beast makes some cloaking or a shield or early warning device, something. This is happening too much. But he hasn't invented it. Not soon enough for Psylocke and Zorn. We don't actually see them crash, but they're definitely not having a good day, and they're not getting to the bedside of John Greycrow anytime soon. So that is this new amazing villain, Charlene Jackson. Anything else to say about her before we move on?
No.
I guess that sums it up. Next team member, his last name is Colton. His first name is also Colton. Yes, he is Colton. He says that his dad was not very creative. Colton is just a good old country boy who is able to, quote, cultivate grudges, seed lies, and stoke petty hatreds, and he did that until he provoked everyone in the trailer park that he lived in and to go into war with each other, like literally burning each other's stuff down and punching each other in the face.
Yeah.
Just for entertainment, just to see if he could. And shouldn't this be the guy who is talking fellow prisoners into killing themselves, not Jackson?
You would think so, yeah. But and again, I'll say the same thing I did before. If you're going to tell me these characters are like super manipulative, I need to see that on the paper. Not just say like, oh, he's really good at it. It feels lazy, right? So he's really good at it, and we just see the after effects. Like he's sitting there out front of a trailer drinking a beer. It's like,
that
okay,
would be
great.
a hard scene to write. Like, how do you, it's like writing a super smart person. It's hard to write a super smart person.
Yes.
How do you write someone who's smarter than you?
Yeah.
It's tough, but it needs to be done if we're going to buy it.
I just wish they would, yeah. Or just don't have this angle, right? Like, I would have been, I don't know. You could tell me, like, this group is plotting against the X-Men and they don't know that this group exists, so they're not on guard against them. And I would believe that they're going to, at least get an initial first strike against the X-Men and surprise them.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need like all this, like, oh, they're super manipulative and that's why it works. Like, it's just backstory that doesn't seem necessary for the outcome.
Yeah.
And then we never actually see it. It's just all written down saying, like, oh, he's so good at convincing people to do things.
And it would be easier to sell if these were established characters. You have a Lex Luthor type.
Yeah.
You just say that he can do this. Well, of course he can. He's Lex freaking Luthor. But Colton, you have to show it to me first.
Yeah.
So Colton's task as a member of the Danger Room is to
say something.
Please, Ruben.
You know what would have been a really good character to bring back, to be very manipulative and in the shadows. This could have been Abigail Brand.
Of course.
Easily.
She has a grudge against the X-Men.
She's got a grudge, yeah.
Maybe that'll be the big reveal in issue 6 of this,
that she's in charge of Miss Danger.
Maxine Danger pulls off her rubber, mask, and it's Abby Brand underneath. Like, Mission Impossible.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
that's
just
my
as
prediction.
As an aside, so somebody on Threads the other day was like, give me your top 4 X-Men, right? So I click in and, like, it's the standard, like, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, Cyclops, Beast, like a million people.
Sure.
Nothing of interest, like occasionally a Magneto. So I had to go in with Legion, Abby Brand, Destiny, and Mr. Sinister.
That's your Mount Rushmore of X-Men characters?
Yeah, I think it was Mutants was the actual...
Mutants, okay.
Yeah, it was the angle, just before people tell me those characters aren't X-Men. But yeah, nobody reacted to it. I didn't even get like a like on it, which made me laugh.
Oh, well. So what Colton did is his job is to turn the X-Men and the town of Merle, Alaska against each other. So he's the one who arranged for poor Glob Herman to get shot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a broken record here, Ruben, but how did he do that? Who did the shooting? Did he do the shooting? Did he hire someone to do the shooting?
Yeah. That's pretty funny, too. Again, this is like all this like extra exposition when it could have very well just been like, he's just a guy. They don't know who he is, right? There's no reason to think he couldn't just show up and shoot Glob, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's just a regular dude. He's not like scary. But anyways.
And the concept of attacking good old Glob to make everyone else upset, that's a good idea. That's a good villain kind of idea, right?
Yes.
You can see how that's a manipulative thought.
Yes.
But how do you do it?
Yeah.
Because, it makes them angry, especially hot-headed Quentin Quires, which is going to work. And when Quentin gets angry, he gets stupid, and he's going to do something dumb and get the town all angry at them. That's a good idea.
This reminds me a lot of what happened with, and I'm going to guess that McKay's going to play a little bit with this, is when, what's his name? Who's the four-arms seamster guy?
Oh, yeah, the guy who designs the costumes for the Hellfire galas. That guy. I forget what his name is,
Jumbo
Carnation. Right.
Yeah, we got there together. Yeah, so in the beginning of All New X-Men, Morrison had Jumbo Carnation killed, and that was kind of what triggered Quentin to form the sort of Magneto was right.
Okay,
militant
I know
arm.
that Jumbo was killed and didn't come back until Krakoa. I didn't know that was connected with Quentin.
Yeah, he was both introduced in that storyline, and I don't even remember if he was actually in the pages, but in any event, he was like in Mutant Town. He just got like beat and killed by a group of bigoted anti-mutants. And that's what triggered Quentin to become like very radical.
That would be fun to actually reference in the book, like say that, I know this is how you get to Quentin. We've seen it happen before, so I'm going to do it again. That'll be a cool callback.
Yeah.
But we do get a splash page here of Glob Herman back at the base. We don't see how he was found. We don't see how he's gotten back to the base. And I think the art here doesn't serve the story super well because it doesn't really sell that he's even in a medical bay. We don't get tubes. We don't get a mask.
It looks like he's got him on Magneto's desk.
Exactly.
Because the chair, they're just like, look what we found.
Exactly. Magneto's hover chair is pulled right up to the slab that he's lying on. And it looks like they dumped poor friggin' Glob's almost lifeless body on Magneto's desk. So Netho Diaz, I love a lot of his work here. Just make this look more medical, right?
Yeah.
Some machines with squiggly lines that go ping, put a mask and tubes and, have it look like it's medical. I know the good medical people on this team are all gone. Right? Beast isn't there. Zorn's not there. So you
it kind of doesn't
how,
make sense. Kind of a bad play to take all your doctors away, right? You'd think you'd have one kept at the base, but
they knew that. Yeah, I guess Cyclops wanted to be nice and say, okay, we know that Grey Crow needs a healer, so take the healer. He didn't know that it was all part of a multi-pronged plan to get the X-Men.
Yeah.
So,
well, then my next question is, doesn't Merrill have a hosptal? I mean, I wouldn't think you'd take Globherman back to your base with gunshot wounds.
Because Glob is we talked about mutant anatomy over in the X-Men United. Glob's anatomy is, well, first off, it's completely visible because you can see through him. But would you treat him like a human being gets treated? I don't even know.
Yeah, unsure.
So maybe, again, we didn't see him get found by the police or by anyone responding to this super loud gunshot. So we don't know how he got back here to Merle. Who knows? Okay,
do you think he's dead, or do you think he's just injured and on the table?
They said he's clinging to life at one point.
Yeah.
So he's not dead. I don't think they're actually going to kill off Glob, but they don't look like no one knows what to do. No one's actually treating the poor guy. He's just bleeding all over Magneto's desk.
Yeah. I think Magneto's like, Magneto, you fix him. He's like, I'm not a fucking doctor.
He's not made of metal. I can't do squat.
Yeah.
Okay. So the final two members of the Danger Room, these two guys work as a team. They call themselves Grigos and Marquez. And Ruben, what do Grigos and Marquez claim about themselves? That's kind of particular.
Yeah, this is the only of these like backstory characters. This is the only one that's interesting to me.
100% agree.
Yeah, so they are. Is it Skrulls? They think that they're secretly Skrulls and that they were zapped with a mind whammy that doesn't let them shift.
Yes, they specifically say that they were here before Secret Invasion, which is a very big Marvel thing. And they say they've been punished by Earth heroes, preventing them from transforming. So they're stuck here on Earth, and they're kind of behind enemy lines. It's a lot like the old stories about the Japanese guy who on an island somewhere who doesn't know that World War II ended.
Yep.
Except they know the war ended. They just don't like the way it ended, and they're still fighting it.
Yeah. I love this. It's just like, in my opinion, they're just psychos that think that there's these things. That
it could
really
go either way, right? We're in the Marvel universe. It's happened before. Maxine thinks they're psychos, but they even specifically referred to those Skrulls who are hypnotized by Reed Richards into thinking they were cows. Mm-hmm. And then those Skrulls live as cows forever, and they actually come back up in later issues. Those are referred to a lot. And that story was in Fantastic Four #2, like actual legacy #2, the second Fantastic Four story ever in September of 1961, which, Ruben, that's before I graduated high school. That's how long ago that was. So a fun little callback. And these two are definitely have the most interesting backstory.
Yeah.
We're just left to wonder for ourselves, are these two Jamokes actually Skrulls or not? And McKay's left it open for himself. He can choose to go either direction if he wants to.
Yeah.
So these guys were like attacking U.S. infrastructure, setting things on fire, it seems. And then when first responders would show up, they would shoot at the police and firemen and that kind of thing. So they got arrested and thrown in prison, and then Maxine Danger got them out of prison. These two, we are told, are responsible for luring the main group of X-Men out to that container ship using Sheriff Robbins as bait. And I guess all they really did was come up with the idea and tell Maxine to do it because she's the one, I guess, who gets this to actually happen. And it's a pretty obvious idea, right? There's not that many people, right? The old capture a loved one or a sidekick or somebody and make them rescue. That's not new.
Yeah.
It does turn out that I had thought that there was some tentacle creature there in the room with the X-Men. We saw attacking them in the final panel. But it turns out it's a whole Beyond thing. Beyond has done their weird techno-organic science, magic, whatever thing, and turned the entire container ship into a living, malevolent entity, which kind of looks all right. Right? It's better than like the Beyond talking sandwiches that we've seen in the past. Jim's favorite. Cool page of the whole ship that is kind of shape-shifted into this giant alien shark-looking thing. The whole ship dives underwater.
It looks a lot like that shark alien ship that came to Earth that like tried to kidnap Scott. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. It does look like that.
I was like, this is very familiar. I guess
the one that was connected with Scott's dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean it's different, but it looked very similar to me.
Yeah, that was a lobotomized space whale. if I recall correctly.
And now we have a animated boat shark.
Giant container ship shark. Yep.
Yeah.
So I guess we're supposed to wonder, even if the X-Men escape the ship, they're under 100 feet of water, how's that going to work out?
Yeah.
And so, Ruben, that's the backstory. And it feels like that's, like you say, that should be the first half of an issue. And then we see, what happens from here? But we're pretty much done.
Yeah.
We get 3 more pages bringing us back to the point of view of our heroes, right? Psylocke and Zorn trying not to crash. Quentin and Temper being super pissed off over Glob's wounded body there on Magneto's desk. The rest of the X-Men still fighting the tentacles. And on this little action bit with Scott and team fighting the tentacles, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Right? He acknowledges the trap. He knew it was a trap. He gets a little speech here and says, yeah, I walked my meanest, toughest X-Men into a trap on purpose. We just need to win and then walk out of here and then beat up the people who did this to us, basically.
Yeah. The only thing I was questioning was, is Beast really one of your meanest, toughest? I guess I don't know who else you would bring, but
he has been at times in the past. And if we just look at the Netho Diaz art,
he looks very feral. Yes, he looks savage. I agree. But I was thinking, like, if you really wanted heavy hitters, I'm not sure he's your heavy hitter. I feel like Quentin would probably do a little better as a heavy hitter.
We've seen Beast be resistant to even going on missions. He wants to stay back at the base and do research on Magneto's disease and stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're attacked by tentacles, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But the art
I guess
looks
it's also
great.
good to have a medic on your away team as well. So
yeah, that's true. Maybe the sheriff would need
like a field
medical attention.
Yeah.
So Beast is there. Scott looks, super intense. Magic looks, pissed off, a little bit scared. The sheriff looks terrified. All the art here in these last couple pages, you can see that Netho Diaz really put a lot of his attention and effort into these very last pages. But it doesn't move the plot forward at all. Right?
Yeah.
We just kind of hop backwards. We fill in the backstory for these events we already know that are going to happen. We learn about this Danger Room team, and they're not all that interesting. Definitely the Skrull guys are the most interesting. So once again, Ruben, I'm not supposed to think about the storylines that we've abandoned temporarily to do this story, right? Because we'll eventually get back to 3K and Krakoa Beast and Doug Ramsey. We're definitely going to get back to it, but this story doesn't feel interesting enough to distract me from those other stories I really want to see. So Jed MacKay is kind of leaving me behind here a little bit. It's not an awful issue, but it's just kind of half of what I want it to be.
Yeah. I think it's again, the problem for me is it's the half issue piece. I'm okay with this overall story if it's really stirring the pot in an interesting way. Like I'm imagining Quentin and Temper going out and causing some problems, right?
Right, demanding to know who did this and how did you let this happen.
Yeah. And then when Scott comes back, that's going to be a problem, right? Maybe even like get O&E more, give them a pretense to go and like actually raid the base and kick them out of the Merrill, Alaska location.
Will any of the X-Men back at the base try to be the calmer, wiser heads? What's Magneto going to say? Will he be, right, the smarter Magneto? Will he be the, humans attacked one of my mutants Magneto?
Yeah.
Will Ben Liu have something interesting to say, or Animalia? Yeah. There's a lot of potential character dynamics that could be really fun here.
Yeah, so that bit I'm looking forward to. But if they're not going to actually do anything with that, then I'm going to be annoyed that this whole thing was just kind of a waste.
So, yeah, I think I'm in a pretty similar position. I think just to wrap this up, I think the art mostly looks terrific, aside from Magneto's desk. But, yeah, I want a little more out of this Jed MacKay, and I guess we've been burned a few times by his villain teams, and this one still has potential, but I'm not impressed so far, so I'm giving X-Men number 27 a 7 out of 10. How about you, Ruben?
Yeah, I don't know. The art is cool, and I enjoyed it enough when I read it, but I think 7 is sort of like, it's adequate, and this is maybe a step below, so maybe I'll just go to 6.8.
6.8 from Ruben.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave this issue and head on to Cyclops number 2, which is called Seeing Red, Part 2, written by Alex Packendell, art by Roger Antonio, colors by Fer Cifuentes Sujo once again. I think I said the name better that time. Letters by Joe Caramagna. So, Ruben, tell us everything we need to know about Cyclops number 2.
I was not so into that first issue, which surprised me because I really liked Alex Packendell's prior story. the Mystique story. But this one, for me, is a little bit better, more because there's a bit more about, why I should care about the Reavers and how they're maybe not just totally throwaway characters. But similar to the last story, I felt by the end of it, I was like, what really progressed, by the end of this story? It's just kind of a big fight scene over a lot of pages. And I feel like maybe over 2 issues, you could have just combined them and told the same story in 1 issue.
It does feel a bit like that. So just to set up the background here, Donald Pierce of the Reavers has kidnapped particular young mutants and is forcing them to mine some as yet unnamed metal that's under this mountain here in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And he's also made some more people into Reavers, and he's playing them against each other. And Scott happened to be flying over. One of these new Reavers was trying to show off, shot Scott down, and now Scott's wandering around with a broken visor, where he's just made this kind of new friend, this mutant girl. And it's blind Scott against the Reavers.
Yep. Yeah. So in the last issue, one of the things I complained about was like, what are they doing here? And apparently they've found some mysterious metal. At some point, Scott, for some reason, jumps to the conclusion that they must be mining vibranium, which...
It's not going to be vibranium.
Yeah.
The way it's set up, it's going to be something different. It's some weird metal that acts funny.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was just kind of like, why would you think it's vibranium? I thought that was like extremely...
It's Mysterium, right?
Yeah, it'd be Mysterium. That would make more sense. It just felt like vibranium never exists anywhere outside of Wakanda, at least on Earth. So the Reavers are in their mountain, Mount Mercer, and they are overseeing some mutant captives that they're forcing to mine. And we learned that the metal that they are mining keeps changing weight as you hold it, so it's kind of bizarre. Which I think is one reason you'd think it's not vibranium, because that's more stable as far as I understood.
It really is a bad time to be a mutant in Canada right now, isn't it? At this point in continuity. Bad things keep happening in Wolverine, and here the government's against you. You got Donald Pierce of the Reavers kidnapping you. Just don't be a mutant in Canada. Bad place.
Yeah, not good. And then elsewhere in the cave, you have Tearjerker reporting on his failure to capture the escaped mutant in the end zone, ratting out that he shot down a Quinjet. And, Donald Pierce is very unhappy with that, and he's got end zone and Blitz Temper holding Tearjerker and talking about how, failure is not tolerated as a Reaver, and, Tearjerker is still saying, like, I'm the best, the best asset that you've got here, like, give me another chance, that kind of thing. And Donald Pierce authorizes end zone to rip out the targeting tracker.
Targeting system, yes.
Yeah, out of Tearjerker's eye. And I guess their machinery must be self-repairing, because then he just like jabs it into his own face. And
it's like modular. You can pop it off and pop it back in.
Yeah.
And I think the dynamic here among the Reavers and Donald Pierce, I think that's the most interesting part of the book to me.
Yeah.
Right? They have stupid names. We got Sockeye and Cold Cut and Tearjerker and End Zone.
Yeah.
But Donald Pierce made these names, and he's a dumbass. So, of course, the names are going to be dumb, right? It works in context. So I like that.
Yeah.
And these people who volunteered to have their bodies, ripped up and replaced by cybernetic junk, they're not the cream of the crop, right? They have some other issues going on. So to see them scheming against each other, and, End Zone starts whining, no, I need my targeting system for my missiles. I can see this going on. It's kind of a fun dynamic. And clearly this is why the Reavers are going to lose, because they're a bunch of losers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end, you'll see my score is a little higher than it was last issue. And a lot of it was just this character work, and it kind of gives you a perspective of who these people are. So I guess Donald Pierce decides you're not going to quite kill Tearjerker at this point, but obviously he's been demoted in the sense that, like, he allowed End Zone to rip the tech off him.
Which,
and then he sends him back out.
We're absolutely not a political podcast, but the idea of the top leader making his underlings fight among each other for his favor, that happens a lot in different political contexts, and it's kind of fun to see it here.
Yeah. So they go back out to hunt down the escaped mutant, in particular because Donald Pierce is like, if the escaped mutant reconnects with Cyclops, then that's a problem for us. So we need to intercept her before then. But if you run into Scott independently, like, you got to try to take him down. So they run out, and then it cuts to the next scene, which is Scott kind of waking up from, I guess he was kind of knocked out, concussion, who knows. But he's in the field with May, who had pulled him away from the wreckage. And I kind of like this little bit too, where he is quickly analyzing the situation, and figures out who she is, and then hears about the shot callers, and then he's like freaking out, saying like, "You got to get that taken off, or they're going to track us." Which is like, these are very, very good tactical mind Scott moments.
Yeah, he turns back to his usual self very quickly, as he should.
Yeah, and I also like May, her reaction being like, "I'm not an idiot. Like the net collar's gone, right?" But he can't see that, so of course he'd be just thinking it through.
Mm-hmm. And the relationship between May and Scott here is very contentious at first. Right?
Yeah.
She saved his ass. She dragged him away from the wreckage.
Yeah.
It turns out that she does have some sort of super strength level, not like the Hulk or the Thing, but, stronger than your average bear.
Yeah.
But she loses her super strength when she gets scared. She says it's related to her cortisol spiking or something.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good idea for this is not going to be the next giant Omega level mutant, but it doesn't have to be. So that's obviously going to be her character arc, right? Her getting control of her emotions so that she can use her strength whenever she needs to. That's clearly going to be what happens by issue 5 or so of this series.
Yeah, and we also get some nice little character beats where she talks about how, her life in Canada was fine until the mutants formed Krakoa. And she never joined up with that, right? But then after that, her family started getting harassed by anti-mutant people that felt offended by seeing that.
Do not be a mutant in Canada. Bad place.
Yeah. But I always think that's a nice dynamic, right? To see that not everybody went to Krakoa and that there were ramifications. People were feeling kind of jealous.
So there's a bit here where she has made like a tiny little campfire, and she hands Scott like a glowing, semi-burning stick from the campfire and says, "Hey, since you're here, make yourself useful." I have no idea what he's supposed to do with that burning stick. What is even going on there?
Yeah, I read that and I was trying to think of two things. I think that she thinks like she's trying to make a fire, but she's having a hard time doing it. Like it's not actually lighting. And then she thinks that he can use his optic blasts to create a fire.
Huh.
So then I was like, is that I have to assume that Pactendale knows that he doesn't have like heat creating laser beam eyes. But then maybe this character doesn't know how it works, right?
If that's an interesting idea, but then we need to be told that a little more directly in the dialogue. Yeah. Also, in the art, it looks like the fire's kind of started mostly already anyway.
Yeah.
So
it's sort of embery, so I don't know. I couldn't tell. Yeah, I couldn't really tell because I was like, if it's really embery, maybe that was so they couldn't track you, right? Because if you're being on the move, you really don't want to create a big fire.
Yeah. I know they're in Canada where it gets cold all the time, but if you're trying not to be found by the Reavers, I would think lighting a fire would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
This whole scene needed a couple extra panels explaining what the hell is going on here.
Yeah, it was a bit weird.
Also, how do they stop Scott's eyes? He has no visor, and he wants to go back to the crash wreckage and maybe find the spare pair of glasses. Mm-hmm. So how do they stop his eyes from just firing off randomly right now?
Yeah, he just rips off a rag and ties a bandana over his face, and somehow that's adequate.
I guess I don't understand his eye optic blast power so much, because we even see in one panel his eyes glowing red behind the blindfold. So it's not like it's helping him keep his eyes closed all the time.
Yeah.
How does that even work? I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even think
we just have to accept that with the blindfold on, he's not continuously blasting.
Yeah. If you can't see, it doesn't work, I guess. That's a weird concept. So Scott wants to return to the Quinjet. May wants to go back to the mountain to rescue her friends, which I felt like was a really kind of a weird thing. Like, why did she run out of the mountain if that was what her plan was to begin with?
That's true. I think now that she's found a famous X-Man, now she thinks
that she can do it. Yeah.
Now we have to do it because that's why you're here, because you're going to help me rescue my friends.
Yeah, but obviously he's not that effective, at least, or maybe she just doesn't quite understand how ineffective he is at this point.
Or she just thinks she can point him at Donald Pierce and just,
and he opens his
use
eyes,
him like a gun, basically.
Yeah, maybe.
So they get so mad at each other that I guess, and this is also not presented very clearly, I think she just storms off and leaves him behind after kicking down a tree to show off just how strong she is.
Yeah, exactly. So she kind of wanders off, and she sort of says, can you follow my voice? But I guess she wasn't waiting around to find out. And then InZone finds the the wreckage of Scott's mask and then kind of phones it back to Donald Pierce and says, hey, it was Cyclops and he doesn't have his mask, so that optic blast means he's got some problems. So maybe now's a great time to take him out. And I think Pierce is like, oh, well, this guy's thinking for himself. Good on him. So then he continues searching and he runs into May and,
End Zone finds May, which is the only way I realized that she and Scott had actually split
separated
up physically, because End Zone finds her and Scott's not with her at the time.
Yeah. So he grabs her and he's like, gotcha, we're going back to the cave, you're going back to work, that kind of thing. And then Scott shows up and he like throws his voice, like he makes a whistling sound in the woods.
Once again, this is the problem with this issue for me, is what happens here. He's nearby. Yeah. We see him whistling. Yeah. And then End Zone lights some trees on fire. So is he a ventriloquist?
That's what I gathered. I gathered one of his tricks is he's directing End Zone into the woods. Yeah, he makes a noise, and then End Zone shoots in the woods, and then he drops May, and then he goes to see, like, did it actually kill something? And then while End Zone is in the woods inspecting what he had shot, Scott sneaks up and, like, grabs May and tries to, sneak her away. Yeah. And then End Zone returns and sees that, and he starts taking some shots at them, and it knocks a tree and splinters, and it gets into, like, Scott's back, and he's all injured.
Those splinters look really weird. I don't think wood splinters like that, because these triangles of wood end up in Scott's back. He looks like a stegosaurus. He's got these things sticking out of his back.
Yep.
And that's when this fight happens. And this fight was kind of complicated to me, too, because somehow Scott ends up on End Zone's back and rips out some hydraulic hoses.
So what happens is End Zone, so Scott's got the spikes in his back, and End Zone comes over and grabs him by the head and picks him up, and he's going to kill him. But then I guess when he shot the trees, that also started a forest fire. So then May grabs a stick that's burning and shoves it into End Zone's face.
A lot of burning sticks,
which injures him. And he drops Scott. And then Scott gets up while End Zone is dealing with the burning flame in his face, and he jumps on End Zone's back and he starts pulling wires out, like disconnecting things. Mm-hmm. And then that shuts off End Zone's hydraulics in his legs, and he like tumbles off a cliff, and somehow Scott, without seeing, knows that he needs to jump off the guy's back at the right time.
May calls out, you have to jump. So I think the idea is they're getting some teamwork together.
Got it.
They're learning to trust each other. They've saved each other.
Yeah.
That's the idea. But I think, again, the nuts and bolts storytelling of panel to panel, what is actually happening here, it's a little bit rough.
Yeah. So End Zone falls off the cliff, and then Scott and May get back up, and then Scott now is saying, like, now you need to listen to what I say. We need to go find that Quinjet.
And so I guess she's okay with just doing what Scott says now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last scene is Tearjerker comes upon the injured End Zone, who's in like in a bad way, laying in a pile of junk at the bottom of the cliff. Mm-hmm. And Tearjerker reminds him that when you fail as a Reaver, all bets are off, and you're now just scrap for other Reavers. And so he brutally like rips him apart, takes the eye targeter back, and other
takes
parts.
A bunch of other stuff too. And this is a cool page. It's a 9-panel grid with very particular color choices. Looks very brutal. Well done. And again, this is the relationship among the Reavers that we can see how, boy, they're not exactly good with the teamwork.
Yeah. You made some good points, like some big major flaws, especially that bandana over the eyes really bothers me now. I didn't even think about that, visually speaking. Like, how would that stop an optic blast? But at the same time, I'm like, I think, except for that scene where it's like kind of the glowing red behind the bandana, you could think that Scott could just keep his eyes closed and that would be effective. But all that being said, I did think the dynamic between the Reavers was interesting. It made them more of a distinct group of villains than I've thought of in the past. Mm-hmm. And their technology did seem really scary, like rough and gross. And I liked the idea of Scott saying like he doesn't really understand how Donald Pierce is always able to find mooks to like follow him and go through with the Reaver transformation process because it's ridiculous. I thought all that was like just good little character bits. So I'm going to give this a 7 out of enjoyment level, but which, I think I gave the last one maybe like a 5.5 or a 6. So I'm up on this.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm tempted to maybe subscribe to this now just because I want to support Paxton Dow getting more stories, but I'm going to give it one more issue. But I do think it's sort of turning around into a more interesting story than I gave it credit after that first issue.
Okay. I'm definitely with you on the Reavers. That's the most interesting part of the story. The relationship between Scott and the kid is all right. It's kind of bare bones. We really haven't seen it fleshed out yet. Maybe we'll get some more of it. I'd be at a 7, except, like I said, there's some nuts and bolts storytelling, panel-to-panel things where I'm trying to figure out what is really happening here. And for that, I'm going to knock it down to a 6.5. Okay.
Can't complain. Can't argue with that.
Sounds good to me. Let's move on to our third and final book of the podcast, which is Wade Wilson, Deadpool #2, Legacy number 352, Bad Omens. It's written by Benjamin Chuckles Percy, art by Jeff Shaw, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by Joe Sabino. So we were pretty happy with the first issue. I guess I was more happy with it than you were.
I was intrigued by the mystery note writer, but that was about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the setup here. So Deadpool is super bummed because of something mysterious and awful that happened to his daughter Ellie sometime between issues.
Mm-hmm.
He's self-destructive, which is not a new thing for him. And, that's what you do with a character who has super healing. You can injure him over and over again.
Yeah.
He's also super violent, not a new thing. The inciting incident of this arc is that notes start fluttering down literally out of the sky, and these notes predict something bad's going to happen real soon. And hey, Deadpool, you can prevent it, or at least save people from what the bad thing is.
Yeah.
So once again, this issue does not advance the story at all. We just see him do a few more of these missions, and the first
it's like a montage of missions, and then at the very end, there's like a page of something that promises to go forward.
And none of the missions are all that fascinating. Not nearly as fascinating as Ben Percy probably thinks they are.
Yeah.
So at the end of the first issue, we got a note saying some terroristic clowns were going to take over a subway train. And I thought, is this going to lead towards learning who the note writer is?
Mm-hmm.
No, not at all. No plot consequences. Ben Percy just thought it would be funny to draw terroristic clowns on a train. Ruben, what are these clowns trying to accomplish? What is their goal?
They just want to blow up a bomb in Times Square when the train goes under it.
Yeah, they don't really have
That's
a goal.
There's no goal other than death and destruction.
Clowns with guns and bombs, I guess that's funny. So Deadpool fights the clowns, grabs the bomb, and lets it explode on him like 8 feet in front of the train, and I guess that saves the day? I don't know why. If it's that big a bomb that it would blow up a whole square. Okay, but moving on. We get a few more savings of the day, rapid fire. Deadpool defeats a submarine full of nuclear zombies. Then, this is the one I like best, he stops the Red Ghost super apes from seizing control of the Empire State Building. I chuckled at that because the Red Ghost, a very deep pull, another really old Fantastic Four villain, and he has these super apes, but they're like regular-sized gorillas. So having a group of regular-sized gorillas on the Empire State Building, that's kind of fun. I'll give you that, Ben Percy. That's a funny idea.
Yes.
We get a Murder Hornet reference, which feels several years out of date. Right, when murder hornets were a thing in 2022 maybe? that was a West Coast Bayou thing, wasn't it? The murder hornets?
Yeah, fortunately not in Washington, but
but we were
afraid that they were coming here. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So cut to the chase. At the end of the issue, Deadpool gets another message. This one saying that a gangster is going to be executed in the park, and here's the one and only actual plot point from the issue: Hammerhead, who is the gangster who called for the hit on the other gangster, and the gangster who had hired Deadpool at the beginning.
I'm going to update my last statement. Apparently, they were exactly in my place. I had to look this up.
So. I thought they were pretty close.
Correct it. Yeah, apparently they were detected in Washington.
Is there a date on whatever story you're looking at?
2019.
2019. 7 years ago. Ben Percy, come on, man. That's old news. So back to Hammerhead. Hammerhead finds this note that Deadpool leaves behind. So Hammerhead wants to know, he's oddly ambivalent. Maybe there is. These are real prophetic notes that Deadpool's been finding. Mm-hmm. He just found out about the notes. I would expect him to be more skeptical about it, but he's like, 50-50. Either we actually have a prophet on our hands, and I want to make use of that, or it's a hoax, and I want to get the guy for causing trouble, and that's where we leave it. The only advancement of the plot is Hammerhead knows about the notes and wants to chase down whoever's leading him. Nothing new about Ellie. Deadpool does have like one nightmare where he's also dreaming about Ellie, but no new information about what actually happened to the poor kid.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about this Ellie character. This is the first time I had seen a picture of her.
Okay.
Does she have his powers, and is she all like scarred up like he is, or?
Oh, I know she has regenerating powers. I believe she's somehow a mutant, even though Deadpool is not a mutant.
Right.
She was teased a bit during Krakoa, but then she played a bigger part in a series I didn't read because it was like Deadpool's and Wolverine's is. That was part of the run of Deadpool that I didn't read by, forget what the guy's name is. Yeah, it was
I didn't know
a book that I didn't like so much.
When I was looking at the picture and she was all like zombified, I was like, I don't know if that's the way she looks or if that's like a nightmare. I assumed that that was nightmare fuel.
Wolverine's and Deadpool's was by Cody Ziegler, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't read that series, so if you want to know more about Wolverine's kid, I guess you go back and read the Wolverines and Deadpool's miniseries. And I'm not sure what her deal was. I figured when we started this series and she seemed to be dead, I figured, she must have died in that series, but doesn't seem like it. It seems like whatever bad thing happened to her.
It's the mystery that they're going to reveal over the course of...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where we leave that. Oh, I also need to mention a whole ton of editor's notes that are super unfunny. Not even a little bit.
Thank you.
just the worst. So take those out. So put all those things together. The art looks kind of cool. I mean, the action is fun. Roger Antonio does. That was the last book. Jeff Shaw does a fine job drawing all the super violence and the goofy clowns and hitting that balance of kind of silly and violent. All right.
There was a weird element with. Is it Blind Al? Is that his roommate?
Yeah.
Yeah, where she's showing
Leslie Uggams, I think, plays her in the movies.
Yeah, so she's showing Wade some sympathy, right, when he has these nightmares and wakes up, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna make fun of me for screaming," but she's like, "No, let's have some tea or something like that."
Yeah, that's an okay scene.
It's an okay scene, and then there's like a weird joke about her robe not being like tied tightly enough, and she might come flopping out. Which is fine, but then Deadpool's
very much a movie thing. They do a lot of that in the movies.
Yeah, but then he's like, neither one of us wants that. I'm like, is he gonna hit on her? Like, what? I couldn't figure out what that joke was. It was weird. Maybe intentionally, just uncomfortable, bizarre joke.
I think it's just supposed to be a movie, not a reference exactly, but having the characters do the kind of thing they do in a movie.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, with the lack of plot movement and the unfunny jokes, I think I'm just going to call this a 5 out of 10. It's not awful, but boy, it's a disappointment after the first issue. How about you, Ruben?
This is the same story that I thought I was reading the first time, so didn't surprise me. But I'm gonna. Did I like it more than that? It's just nothing happens. It really is a nothing issue. So I think I'm going to join you at the 5 level.
And it's issue 2 of Ben Percy's run. If he's out of ideas already,
exactly.
We're in for a rough time. Issue 2. Okay, that's enough on Deadpool. We did that one pretty quickly. Does not deserve any more time. Let's talk about next week. So 2 books we'll definitely talk about next week. There's a lot of books next week. We'll have to make some choices. But 2 we're certainly going to talk about are Uncanny X-Men number 25, which is more of those, legion of, I remember what the group of the movie villains, the Mummy and the Draculas and the Wolfmans, all that stuff. Definitely talk about that. And also Inglorious X-Force number 3. This one's going to be a spotlight on Boom Boom. And that one I think I'm probably looking forward to more than Uncanny. I think that's been a fun book so far. Then we have 4 books that are kind of on the bubble. What are we going to talk about? We have Generation X-23, number 2. Psylocke Ninja, number 3. I'm not going to talk about that. I don't think I read number 2. We have Rogue, number 3. That book's been kind of a mess. And then we have Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon, number 2, which is the second issue in that prologue to the upcoming big event series from Chip Zdarsky. So of those 4, probably Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon sounds the most interesting to me. Any of those jump out to you? That's
the only one I expect to be good. I actually was surprised enough by that issue that I decided to go and pick it up and read it.
Okay.
I also want to say, depending on that's a lot of books to talk about, but I might also talk about X-Men of Apocalypse number 3 that week. I got it. I just didn't get around to reading it, which is why we didn't cover it today. And I know you're not reading it at all.
Right. That has been coming out like every other month so far for a while. So that's way, way delayed. But yeah, I'm curious to find out what's going on there. I'm not going to read it, but I'm happy to hear you talk about it. So we'll definitely talk about Uncanny, Inglorious X-Force, and Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon. And I'm sure we'll flip through the other books. And if anything interesting happens, we'll be sure to tell you about it. My recommended reading for the week, got to go with The Origin of the Famous Skrull Cows. If you haven't read that, it is a classic among classics. Fantastic Four #2, way back at the beginning of the Marvel Universe. Stan and Jack doing their Stan and Jack thing. Good stuff to read, and it is definitely not decompressed the way we've been complaining about this week. It is one story and one issue. Good stuff. So, Ruben, while people are trying to figure out whether or not they actually are Skrulls, what else can they do with their valuable cud-chewing time?
Read more X-Men comics.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive.
Ruben.
Going through all the X books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
I like it, though. I listen to it every week.